Hello, my name is Chris Sloan. I'm a local artist and designer and a member of the Maryland State Arts Council. For the last 7 years, I've had the privilege of working with the Allegany Museum in Cumberland to design and fabricate a permanent exhibit on their first floor. The exhibit is called Crossroads of America, and it's all about how this area was really a crossroads for transportation of all different forms. It started off with the migration of prehistoric animals, prehistoric people, and then came the roads and the paths of people trying to get to the Ohio River Valley, the canals and the trains. It all came through Cumberland. So this exhibit tells that story. Some of the first people in the area were Paleo-Indians. We have artifacts from a very well-known site called the Barton site, which are 12,000 years old. So people have been in this area, we know, for at least 12,000 years, and we have some of their artifacts right inside this replica hut. This hut was an authentic reconstruction based on evidence from the archaeological site. Here we have a painting by Chad Weatherford showing Nemacolin leading some of the early settlers along what's become known as Nemacolin's Trail, which is a path that goes from Cumberland to Pittsburgh. The route from the East Coast to the Ohio River Valley was best if it came through here, because the Potomac River comes all the way up to Cumberland and then turns south. But from Cumberland to the west, there are gaps in the mountains that you can go through to get to Pittsburgh. So in the late 1700s, the British and the French were competing for this region. There were a lot of furs that could be collected from here. So the first industry, so to speak, in the area was the fur trade. And the British felt so strongly about keeping the French out of this area that they built a fort. So here we have a reconstruction of the first fort in Cumberland. It dates back to 1753, 1754. It was actually called Fort Mount Pleasant at first, before it became known as Fort Cumberland. But the young George Washington would have been out in this area surveying and learning about the local traders. And later, as a soldier, he came out and actually visited Fort Cumberland. We're particularly proud of this model for a couple reasons. One is that recent research has revealed more about the fort than we knew before. So we were able to include some of that new research in this reconstruction. Second, if it's not the first, it's certainly one of the first 3D printed historical reconstructions. So everything you see there was printed on a 3D printer. So a really important part of the transportation story in this area is the story of the National Road. The National Road starts here in Cumberland and goes west to Wheeling, what is now West Virginia. So the National Road was started in 1811, and it was actually the second macadam road built in the United States. It was the first federally funded highway. And the first macadam road was in Boonesboro, so both of them are in Maryland. In any case, our challenge was to recreate what the National Road might have looked like back in the early 1800s. So we have here a Conestoga wagon. Conestoga wagons were a type of wagon made in Pennsylvania, and they were very common on the National Road. And the National Road in its heyday was so busy that if you stood on the National Road, you'd see like 250 of these things going by in a single day. So one of the really fun things about putting this exhibit together has been working with the artifacts in the Allegany Museum's collection, like this one here. This is a $500 bond to raise money for the completion of a section of track from Hagerstown. It's from the Western Maryland Railroad. $500 back then could be worth as much as $1 million today. And what's really cool is that you can come out to Cumberland today and still ride this very railroad, the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad, which goes from Cumberland to Frostburg. So sometimes the Allegany Museum had what we needed for display in their collection, and sometimes we had to create them. So what we have here is an artifact that we went out and got. Working with the Allegany County Public Works people, we went out and actually dug up a chunk of the National Road. And what you can see here is history in a block. Down at the bottom, you can see the original macadam rocks. See how big they are? Getting smaller, and then ultimately changing into asphalt because the road never changed its location. They just put new surfaces on it over time. And when you come to the museum, for good luck, you can rub the National Road. It's a little dirty, but they say it's very good luck.